Hello everyone, this is part 2 of my enemy index and we're going to get straight into the video here and start with an enemy that probably should have been in part 1, and that is the Bloodhound. By the way, I've got someone helping me with naming some of these, so shout out to Hario for coming up with great names like this one. Now, for those who watched my last video, they might remember me being surprised that wolves didn't inflict the bleed condition when they bite. Well, it turns out I was actually getting confused with the Bloodhound. Like wolves, they are incredibly fast and do a decent amount of damage when they bite. However, Bloodhounds do inflict the bleed condition with every bite, and this stacks to do some additional damage. Next up we have the Goblins, which we find in the area Dawnsaw. Now these goblins carry swords and have a slash and stab move. In terms of threats, they are particularly strong or special, so you should be fine dealing with them. Elder goblins or old goblins are slower than the previous goblins that we talked about, which makes sense, but they make up for this by having the ability to target you from longer distances. They shoot this green stuff from their staff, which is actually kinda hard to dodge as it is fired at such a fast rate. But again, there's nothing too bad about them and you should be fine dealing with them. The last of the goblin kind that we're going to talk about is the Troll. Now the Troll is definitely the strongest of the three, being bigger, having more health and also damage. It's slow like the Elder Goblin, but again this makes sense, it's quite big. It is also the first goblin type to inflict a condition, stunning you when it hits you. Next is the Samurai. Firstly, I really like the design of these. I think they are drawn and animated very well. In terms of the enemy itself, it has quite a long sword which allows it to perform a very wide slash, which allows it to get decent range for a swordsman. This slash does a decent amount of damage as well, so you do have to be a bit careful around the Samurai. My favourite part about this enemy, however, is the death pose. When you kill it, it sinks to its knees, sword visible, and slowly fades away. Beautiful. Now we're in Narrow Wood and we are looking at the small slime. Again, they do look good and attack you by jumping onto you. They're not very strong and are very easy to kill. The same cannot be said of the big slime. These are very annoying. When they jump onto you, they inflict a stun condition and also do enough damage to one-shot you if you aren't careful or really unlucky. When you kill the slime, the fight isn't over, as instead, multiple small slimes appear to seek vengeance. Now I didn't expect to see this enemy this early in the game, but apparently when the devs added these new areas, they decided to take enemies like the Gladiator skeleton and move them into them. This Gladiator is one of the more stronger enemies from the skeleton group, with an axe that deals a decent amount of damage and also knocks you back when it hits. Also, as an undead type, it can revive itself once you kill it. We're now in Goblin camp and the next enemy we're looking at is another one named by Hario. This time it is the Birdsman, and I'm going to be honest, I think this is the weirdest enemy in the whole of Darkrise. It just looks really odd. In terms of the enemy itself, it doesn't really do much. You're not going to be killed by it, you won't struggle to kill it either, but it just looks really strange. I originally thought it was a plague doctor, but then Harry rightly pointed out that plague doctors completely covered themselves and didn't show their hands. But yeah, it's just a really weird creature. The last area we are going to explore in this video is Lake Gardens, and in this area we are greeted by an evil mushroom thing. The mushroom's attack is fireball, which gives it rage and allows it to target you from further away. Does it inflict burn? No, and therefore it isn't really something you need to be worried about. Now this next one, technically speaking, isn't really an enemy in the same way that the other ones that I've talked about in this video and the last ones are. It's more of a resource, but because you can kill it, you can get XP, and because it can kill you, I've decided to include it anyway. Now this is wild cattle, and what's so special about this is once you kill it, you get the chance to extract leather from it. Now you do need a knife tool in order to extract it, but once you do, and depending on the rarity of the cattle, you can get leather that is uncommon all the way to legendary. Again, this doesn't really count in the same way as an enemy as other ones, but I included it anyway. The last enemy in today's video is the Golden Golem, and where the Golem excels is defensively, because it has very good defensive stats, which makes it very difficult to kill. In addition to that, it also inflicts stun and knock you back every time it hits you, which again is also going to make it harder to hit and therefore harder to kill. Attack wise, it isn't a massive threat, so you shouldn't worry too much about getting killed by one, but defensively it will frustrate you a lot.